All right, I think we're good. What's going on, everybody? C4 here today. And usually, every year, I do positional breakdowns for fantasy football. Because, like I said, we encompass all facets of fantasy football on the channel. Everything but football, not just fantasy. That's what I meant. Madden, real talk, Eagles talk, around the league talk, fantasy football talk. So, rather than doing all those videos at once, which I have opted to do several times before, looking back at the draft, looking back at when the Madden 18 ratings leaked, I've done a lot of videos, which does good business for the channel. But what I figured was, at least for the fantasy, we're not going to spam you with 900 damn videos about all this stuff. I'm just going to do it all here tonight. So what you're going to find out, I'm going to go for every position. It's going to be based off of a PPR league, which is what I play and how I did my rankings. But we're going to do quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and defense. In between the positions, you guys can ask questions if you need me to maybe do a tiebreaker, if you're looking at trades, all that good stuff. I will try my best to do a Q&A. We're going to just play some offline draft champions because I had no idea what the fuck I'm going to play tonight. And I don't even really know how to play draft champions. I've done a couple mock drafts or whatever drafts, I guess, before. But I've never actually played with it. So that's, that's what's in store for tonight. So, so let's draft our team first, which has nothing really that we're going to talk about, and then we will jump in with my quarterback ratings. And obviously, I don't want to be that guy, but if you really want me to answer your question, you have the super chat. I would suggest even just $1 so I can see it at the top, because I assume once this gets rocking and rolling, there may be a bunch of questions, and if you really want me to ask and answer it, I might miss it. That's the easiest way. I do normal draft, snake draft. Snake draft is the best. I have yet to do an auction draft. All right, let's build this damn team and see what the hell's going on with draft. I don't really care. I'm not going to be fucking really paying attention a whole lot. So we have Ben McAdoo, a pedophile. Okay, we have 2 pedophiles and Bill O'Brien. Jay Gruden, I think, is one of the worst coaches in football. Clearly a pedophile, so we're going B.O.B. as our head coach. We'll generate our little thing here. We have 15 rounds, I guess. Look, we got some decent quarterbacks. So looking at the QBs, Brett Favre, when he played for the Vikings, Colt McCoy at Texas, and Steve McNair. Now, I'm a big fan of Air McNair, but I'm much more a fan of Brett Favre during his final run. Ooh, 90. Ooh. I mean, Steve McNair is... I would go Brett Favre, but let's be honest. Steve McNair is fucking... Let's just get through this. Steve McNair is a little bit more cheesy. I'm not going to be fully paying attention, so it'll be easier to use McNair. Okay. We might have to go Ocho Cinco here. We're just going to go Ocho Cinco. Respect to Chad Johnson. Defensive side of the ball, we got Joe Hay. I usually like to... I'm pretty sure you're supposed to go corners, but Joey Bosa is looking pretty damn good. We're going to get Joey Bosa because we know Joey Bosa is incredibly overpowered. Round 4. Once again, we got James Harrison, who's looking decent. Let's get our corner, though. Okay, here we go. We got Anquan Bolden at tight end. The fuck? Mark Ingram, Sino Kilamete. Let's go with Anquan Bolden at tight end just for shits and giggles. Of course, then fucking Travis Kelce comes up. Let's get Marcus Cannon. Try to build up our offensive line here. We got Perriman, a middle linebacker. We got another corner. We got Muhammad Wilkerson. Let's go with another corner here. All right, guys, I'm trying to hurry this up so I can get to your goddamn questions here. Let's go offensive line again. Continue to build up this O-line. Round 9, we got a bunch of people I do not want. Micah Hyde, terrible. Casillas, no thank you. Let's get K1 Short. Eric Flowers, Bruce Matthews, Oz. Oh, man. Why did we go with Anquan Bolden? Eric Flowers is one of the... Oh, my God. Okay, we're going to get Eric Flowers because that's actually pretty solid. He's one of the worst starting offensive linemen in football. But our 2 tackles are looking good. Oh. All right, we're going out, Sean. I'm seeing you guys' questions. I'll answer these questions you guys are answering before I even jump into it. Eric Kendricks at the middle. Got a right defensive end. We'll get a linebacker here. Virgil Green. Oh my God. I don't want any of these players. Right defensive end. Don't we already have one? Joey Bosa. DeMontre Moore from Texas A&M. That's something I haven't. I guess we'll keep going on the offensive line. We can slide him over to right guard. Come on, give me something big here. C.J. Mosley. Middle linebacker already have. I guess we'll get Eli Rogers, put him in the slot. This is the last round, the big round here. Give me some legends. Bob Sanders. Fuck off. Bob Sanders. I mean, Jordan Reed looks pretty damn terrifying. We'll get Jordan Reed, and we'll put one of these guys at wide receiver. You went to the Eagles open practice day? That's fucking fire, man. I wish I could have went to that. All right, we're going to begin our championship run. All right, let's answer some of these questions before we jump right into things. First question was, am I worried about Andrew Luck? Yes. About the PUP, I would let someone else draft Andrew Luck before I jumped into it. How do I feel about Jordan Howard? I like him a lot. They have a good offensive line there in Chicago, and I think you should be able to rely on that for points because they're not going to be able to throw the ball. I've got the first pick of my draft, David Johnson or Le'Veon Bell. I like David Johnson just because Le'Veon Bell is a real risk off field. You never know if he's going to get suspended, do something stupid. So if you have the option of the two, I like David Johnson. Should I draft a wide receiver or running back in round 1 if I'm pick 5? Go best player available. I'm going to say if you're at pick 5, even if it's not PPR, I would still look for David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell if one of those guys slipped. And then you have the next crop, which I believe is Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. And I'm actually throwing the shade to LaShawn McCoy over Ezekiel Elliott. Just if you're PPR. If you're not in PPR, I mean, you make the decision. Do you think Zeke's going to get suspended? If he does, I really believe Shady is going to be a really viable option. Odell Beckham Jr. as well. But I'm going to say at 5. 5's tough, man. Go best player available. Because if there's still a juicy running back, I'm an old school guy, man. If there's a running back available, I go running back over wide receiver. Mike Evans at 7. Yes, I love that. I pick at number 8 in my fantasy, my big money league, and Mike Evans is one of my top targets because it's a keeper league. I highly, if you guys don't have keeper rules, it's definitely something that adds another dimension to your leagues. I'm keeping Jameis Winston, so I would love to get Mike Evans to double up on those potential points. When to draft Adrian Peterson, I'm saying 4th round, 4th, 5th round, something like that, just because I think there's going to be a little bit of a timeshare between him and Mark Ingram. Gavin Escobar, I mean, fucking leave that guy, man. Gavin Escobar, I mean, yeah, I'd pass on, like, second, get into the second tier of tight ends. Let's see what we got here. Cooper or Brown in Dynasty? Who's Brown? Cooper, is that Amari Cooper? Is that Cooper Kupp? Use full names. Jordan Howard or Zay in round 2? I like Jordan Howard, especially now with Jay Cutler there in Miami. Hey guys, I want to know if I made a smart choice. I dropped O.J. Howard for Austin Hooper. I think Austin Hooper certainly is worth a shout because he's going to be probably the number 1 tight end in Atlanta. They're going to be a I don't know. I'm not going to say pass-happy offense, but they'll be all right. Should I draft a QB in round 1 if I keep Dak? What? No. Why would you keep quarterbacks? Unless you're in a 6-point passing touchdown league, quarterbacks should not be going until at least bottom end of the 3rd round. I like Stephon Diggs, especially because a lot of cheap targets, a lot of cheeky targets with Sam Bradford, not a lot downfield. So he's a guy, especially in PPR, has some great value. When do I draft Willie Snead? I think 8th round, if you really believe he may emerge as a competitive option aside Michael Thomas, which he definitely could. Amari Cooper and Antonio Brown. What was the question again? Cooper or Brown in a dynasty, not PPR. Antonio Brown, 100%. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I don't know if they cost you different amounts, but Amari Cooper going forward, I mean, with Antonio Brown, you don't know if Ben Roethlisberger is going to be retiring. There's rumors that he might be retiring. All right, Cooper, at least you have the nice little stack there with Derek Carr for the foreseeable future. All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to chill out the questions for just 1 sec. We're going to get this game going. I don't know how the fuck this happens. Pretty sure I did offline, didn't I? Isn't this offline draft? How do I check this? Oh, it's fucking head-to-head. I don't want to do head-to-head. Unranked. Oh, it's solo draft is what I want to do. Do I have to pick another team? What's my team looking like here? This is what I want. I want it solo draft. I think it's going to be an entirely different team. And it is. All right, so here quickly is our team that I wanted to play with. We have AP, AJ Green, Brett Favre, Jerry Maclin, Gronk. Pretty decent looking offense. What do we got on the defensive side of things? Levante David, Honey Badger, Keanu Neal, Brent Grimes, Vince Wilfork, Night Train. All right, everything's looking good here. This is what I want. All right, so we're going to be jumping in once we get this game going with my top 10 quarterbacks for this year's draft. I'm not, the worst thing about doing these lists, because there is so much information, is not to be different for the sake of being different, but going with hunches. Because if you go by what all the experts say, that's what a lot of players do. And you're not going to get any advantage because every single draft is got a little cookie cutter. So what we're going to do here is look at my top 10 quarterbacks. And at number 10, I'm going with Derek Carr. My projection for him is about 3,900 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, and 8 picks. What you know from Derek Carr based off of last season is that he does not turn the ball over. He has improved his turnovers significantly since he's been in the league, since as a rookie. And I think when you look at Derek Carr, he's slipping. I mean, any fantasy magazine, they have him anywhere ranked between number 15 and 20, and I think absolutely he could be a fringe quarterback one. Certainly, he has to come back healthy, but the weapons are there. The addition of Jared Cook, the addition of kind of an X factor in Cordero Patterson. What is he really going to bring to the offense? The balance. What the fuck difficulty are we playing on? We're going to have to change this. It's on like easy. All rookie. With the addition of Marshawn Lynch, too, it's really going to balance everything out there on the offense. Why is everyone moving slow motion? This is retarded. But I have Derek Carr as number 10, and really he's going, ADP is not spectacular, so that's definitely a guy you can get and feel confident. Go to number 9. It's kind of, I'm shitting on him a little bit because a lot of people have him ranked as top 5 quarterback fringe, and that's going to be Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks. For Russell Wilson, I have projected about 3,900 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 9 picks, 350 rushing yards as we play on this ridiculously looking Madden, which is going really slow. My problem with Russell Wilson is, there's only so many times you can bet on his offensive line being good. And by being good, I mean being able not to have him on IR after 1 week. And it's just like one of those things. There's going to be one of these years that's going to catch up, and they're going to struggle. I mean, you have uncertainty in the backfield. I mean, the signing of Eddie Lacy just says to me that they're not sold on Rawls or Pro Sites, which is kind of ridiculous. You do have Doug Baldwin and Jimmy Graham, so there are 2 targets, and he's definitely worth drafting. It's not like I completely kept Russell Wilson off my top 10 quarterbacks, but he definitely is a guy that I believe the value is going to be in his rushing yards. And what we've seen the last year or so, because of that offensive line, his rushing yards have dropped off quite a bit. He was a guy that could get you 500-600 rushing yards a year. Now it's looking much more, like I said, between 200 and 400, and that's cutting off, plenty of fantasy points. What made him, I don't want to say hidden value, because there's always known value with Russell Wilson, but I definitely would be optimistic about Russell Wilson, especially because of that offensive line. So that's why I have him at number 9 quarterback. Go number 8 is going to be Marcus Mariota of the Tennessee Titans. I project around 3,700 passing yards, 29 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and about 400 rushing yards. I think the acquisition of pretty much a brand new wide receiver core is going to be great. They got Corey Davis. You got Eric Decker coming over from the Jets to add with Rashard Matthews, Tajay Sharp. Delaney Walker is always a very consistent tight end. You have that run game, which, on one side of things, that run game kind of makes it seem, oh my God, this is easy. Kind of makes it seem like, he's not going to throw the ball as much, but it does help out a quarterback like Marcus Mariota, who makes the most of his targets. Plus the rushing yards, man. He is one of the most electrifying quarterbacks with the ball in his hands, and I definitely wouldn't mind getting me a piece of Marcus Mariota, especially because you could probably wait and get him near the 10th round. He's a guy that's not a top 5, top 10 quarterback like that, so I would definitely look at trying to target Marcus Mariota here. That's why I have him at number 8. Let's hit this damn ball here. Ooh, this is so slow. I don't even know what the fuck it's doing. It must be on rookie. I gotta fix this shit. I don't know if it's automatically on rookie. I have no idea. Go number 7. My number 7 quarterback. It's gonna be Phillip Rivers of the LA Chargers. For Phillip Rivers, I see about 4,100 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions. The reason why I have Phillip Rivers at 7. He has all the targets there. He has plenty of targets this year in L.A. I keep wanting to say San Diego. Obviously, the addition of Mike Williams. You got Tyrell Williams. You got Keenan Allen hopefully coming back healthy. You got Melvin Gordon out the backfield. I mean, there's a plethora of weapons. Oh, my God. Let's go Taylor Gabriel. Why is he so slow? What the fuck? But turnovers. He has been turnover heavy. They've really tried to rely on him. I mean, even last year, there was a decent 1-2 punch until Melvin Gordon got hurt later on, but he still was having a crazy amount of turnovers. And I mean, historically speaking, looking over the last 3 years, I know they've been really injury prone, the Chargers have, but, you know, the Rivers interceptions have been near Eli Manning levels. So that, at least in terms of fantasy value, kind of hurts him a little bit because he's going to get the yards, he's going to get the touchdowns, but because he throws the ball so much, the interceptions are bound to happen. So he's still a valuable quarterback in Phillip Rivers, but again, you need to know when you're drafting Phillip Rivers that the Chargers are the most injury-prone team in football. So you may think, you know, oh my God, we got Mike Williams, who's probably actually going to miss a bunch of time. But Keenan Allen's back, you got Hunter Henry, Antonio Gates, all these guys, they're all walking on thin ice. They're probably just literally a snap of finger away from breaking their goddamn arm. I don't know if the Chargers have like the worst medical staff in the face of the goddamn earth, but beware. If you get Phillip Rivers, even though, you know, the fantasy value is high, you know, it seems like the injury bug hits everyone but Phillip Rivers on that team, so be aware of that. Going to number 6, I'm going with Jameis Winston of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this is my first real, you know, differentiated opinion from the consensus. A lot of people have Jameis Winston as a fringe top 10 quarterback. I have him at number 6 because just look at the odd. I think like a lot of quarterbacks entering their third year, that's usually like their big year, their breakout year, and he has more weapons than ever. You got Mike Evans, who's one of the best wide receivers in football, and everyone knew last year when you're playing the Bucs that Jameis Winston was going to throw the ball to Mike Evans. It was, you know, occasionally he'd go to Humphries, occasionally he'd go to Cameron Brate, but literally 9 times out of 10 it felt like when you're watching a Bucs game, he was throwing to Mike Evans and they still couldn't stop it. Now you add Deshaun Jackson, now you add Chris Godwin, now you add O.J. Howard, and maybe a healthy Doug Martin, a healthy run game to boot. Really, the offensive line's a little bit worrying in Tampa Bay, but outside of that, you know, there is probably not another quarterback that has improve their weapons all around them and their chances of really improving than Jameis Winston. I mean, last year Jameis Winston still got 4,000 passing yards, almost 30 total touchdowns. So there's no way in hell that he's going to get less than that. So I definitely think he's a safe option. Plus, for the back end of the season, pretty goddamn favorable matchups. You got to get Jameis Winston. I definitely would look at having a solid quarterback too to work in a rotational. But I think with Jameis Winston, you should be able to get 30 plus touchdowns easy, which is why he's my number 6 quarterback. And I'm not even a big fan. I'm not just saying that because I have Jameis Winston on my fantasy football team. I just really do feel like I'm not a big fan. I hated Jameis Winston when he's at Florida State. Absolutely hate it. I mean, what an idiot with the crab legs and all that stuff. But I still have to admit, the fantasy value is there. I have heard some rumors and some people talking to me on Twitter that he's going as high as the 6th round, like one of the first wave of quarterbacks. I think that's a little high, but if Jameis Winston's still sitting there between rounds 8 and 10, I would jump all over that and not look back. He's a fringe set and forget quarterback. Going number 5, I'm going to have Andrew Luck of the Indianapolis Colts. I project about 4,300 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. The only problem with Andrew Luck is there is a rumor that he's going to start the season on PUP, which means, he's got to miss some game time. He had that shoulders, I think it was a shoulder, arm, elbow, something surgery. And people are concerned about his injury. If he's going to be back in time, who knows? The gameplay's not so laggy. This thing is fucking playing on all rookie or something like that. I'm going to see if I can change it. But I really do think overall, Andrew Luck, I mean, he's always going to be a quarterback when healthy. 4,041, between 4,000 and 4,500 passing yards, almost a lock. Fringe 30 touchdowns is a lock. Interceptions a little bit high, kind of like Jameis Winston. Turnovers are going to be about 10 plus. But he also gets low-key, decent rushing yards, kind of like Aaron Rodgers in that regard, where he can get you to anywhere between 250 and 400 rushing yards a year, which is kind of some hidden value. But again, you have to take the risk that if he's going to start on PUP or not. If he has a clean bill of health, once you guys get close to your drafts, I highly recommend never going in a fantasy football league that the draft is, any more than like the second week of August. Like any third week of August to the beginning of the season is where the money is for the draft, just because you have a little bit more clarity over who's going to be ready to play. But overall, just be careful with Andrew Luck. Monitor it, use RotoWorld, use whatever. You follow him on Twitter and keep an idea on his injury stats. If he's healthy, gets a clean bill of health, he's the number 5 quarterback. Going to number 4, I'm going with Matt Ryan of the Atlanta Falcons. I'm projecting about 4,500 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions for the reigning MVP. I feel like he's, well, you might be like, oh my God, Matt Ryan didn't lose anything. I felt like last year was an outlier because he had pretty much, I don't want to say there's too much in Kyle Shanahan because obviously we saw how he played in the Super Bowl, didn't run the ball, and probably cost him the Super Bowl. But last year was really like, I don't think it was more of a coming out year for Matt Ryan. I think everything just worked out well because he's pretty much had the same weapons and he's been consistently not what he was last year. I'd say Matt Ryan's average, he gets a lot of yards. They throw the ball a lot. I mean, he'll probably be around 4,500 yards. But I don't think you're going to see 38 passing touchdowns again for Matt Ryan. I think he's going to be probably high 20s. Still definitely a valuable quarterback, like I said, between high 20s, low 30s. 31 is where I have him. But I don't think he's going to get MVP return. I don't think by even mid-season's end he's going to be an MVP consideration. Call me a Falcons hater, but number 4 is not bad. Top 5 fantasy quarterback. I didn't shit on him nearly as much as some other people. Go to number 3. I'm going to go Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints, who is, historically one of the safest quarterbacks in the history of fantasy football. I'm predicting about 4,800 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. What you get with Drew Brees is, probably first place in passing yards. I don't think there's going to be any quarterback, even with the loss of Brandon Cooks, they're still going to air the ball. That's how they're going to do. Even with the addition of Adrian Peterson, the loss of Brandon Cooks, he's still going to get, fringe 5,000 passing yards between, I'd say, 48 and 5,000. I went with the low of 48 in my prediction. The perceived value maybe of Willie Snead, too, because he could step in and fill that Brandon Cooks role. I do think a lot of people are sleeping on Willie Snead. We answered a question earlier in the stream. But yeah, man, Drew Brees, safe. He's absolutely safe. I remember the one year I did draft Drew Brees fairly high to be my QB1. It was considered a down year for him. He still had like 30-some touchdowns. So, I mean, if you're a guy looking for 30-some touchdowns, that's all you want. It's safe with Drew Brees. He's getting up there in age. You always got to be aware that he's going to have plenty of interceptions. But the other base stats are great if you're in a league that, some leagues don't give, 2-point minus for picks. I've heard some people say, we don't lose points for interceptions in my league. If that's the case, Drew Brees may well be a QB1. Going to number 2. I'm going with Tom Brady. 4,400 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, 7 picks. The only reason why I don't have Tom Brady at number 1 is I think that Bill Belichick's, right now at this point in time, especially with Tom Brady's age, he understands the importance of having a balanced offense. You don't want to have, iron fatigue, I guess you could consider for Tom Brady. Less AP with a nice little TD there. The number 1 guy we're going to talk about, they have goddamn 5 capable running backs of starting. I know, obviously, Deion Lewis and James White are receiving backs, which would benefit Tom Brady. But with Michael Illsley and Rex Burkhead, I think they're going to try their best to establish a run in the loss of LeGarrette Blount. Obviously, not enough. Still, Brady's giving my number 2 quarterback. Definitely going to be a guy all season long that's going to be right in the MVP talks. But, I think you still have to go with the other guy that we're going to talk about because he does give you very, very similar stats. He has almost same type of weapons, but he gets you the running yards. So at number 1, I'm going with Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers. I'm predicting about 4,200 passing yards, 38 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and about 250 to 300 rushing yards, which is where he gets the added value over a quarterback that's pretty much immobile in Tom Brady. Even though Tom Brady does get you the QB sneaks on the 1 for rushing touchdowns. But yeah, man, Aaron Rodgers for me. You get the addition of Martellus Bennett. You have Devontae Adams, who's an emerging superstar, to go with Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, who led the league in receiving touchdowns. You have Ty Montgomery, so it looks like once again they're going to be rolling with Ty Montgomery as their starting back, which means plenty of check down, screen passes, stuff like that. I think it's too good right now to pass up on Aaron Rodgers. I think with Brady though, you have the easier division. Pretty much every one of those divisional matchups is going to go, I would say, lopsided at this point. Especially those 2 games against the Jets are going to be mouthwatering if you do have Tom Brady. But for me, like I said, the only thing that separates Brady, it's really 1A, 1B between Rodgers and Brady. And it's not just within the fantasy realm. Probably a lot of people are saying that is for MVP. But it's the rushing yards that Aaron Rodgers will get you that has him as my number 1. Aaron Rodgers over the last 3 years has averaged over 300 rushing yards. So that's 30 more points base than Brady. Oh my God, this fucking gameplay. Looking at some just general stuff. Sleeper, I'm going Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is giving me my sleeper, and I'm not being biased. I'm just saying, look at how the offense was run. Last year, Wentz threw the ball an ungodly amount of times and had meh stats with terrible receivers. If they even have, obviously they're going to try to have a little bit more balance with LeGarrette Blount there. They're still going to air the ball out almost as much. And now you have Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey. So I think for a sleeper, I'm going to go with the homer pick of Carson Wentz. For my favorite rotation, I'm going Jameis Winston and Carson Palmer. If you draft Jameis Winston, if you look at where the hard weeks are that you're going to want to bench him, it almost matches up identically with the easy weeks for Carson Palmer. I'm kind of giving you inside information because that is what I'm planning on running in my big money league, is having Jameis Winston and Carson Palmer. Surely with Carson Palmer, a little bit worries about his age, and are the Cardinals, did they miss their window of being competitive? But Palmer can still air the ball out. Bruce Arians loves to throw the ball, and I will take Carson Palmer on a good week matchup. For bust, I'm going with Kirk Cousins and Blake Bortles as my two busts. With Kirk Cousins, I'm just not a believer that he's ever going to be anything more than a yards quarterback. His yards usually pretty goddamn good, but his touchdowns to interception ratio is nothing special. And I do believe he's getting overdrafted, as he is being considered, a consensus top 7 pick in fantasy. I have a much more grade between like 10 and 15. So I think he's overrated. Definitely not a bad pick. Again, if you're going with a rotational option, Kirk Cousins is not a bad one, but he's definitely not a set and forget quarterback. And then obviously you have Blake Bortles. I mean, you want to think it's going to be Blake Bortles from 2015 where he had 30-some touchdowns, but from all reports of camp, he has not been great, so I'm going to be not touching him. Let someone else make the Blake Bortles mistake. I would definitely have, best case scenario with Blake Bortles, again, a rotational role. For Dynasty, again, I'm going with Carson Wentz. Dynasty leagues where you basically draft a player, you hold on for a long time. Again, homer pick, going with Carson Wentz. But yeah, that will do the quarterbacks. Look at this. On to the next one. It's fucking gone. The rankings are done. Actually, I probably should keep them just in case. Let's see what we got. Thoughts on the Jay Cutler signing? I guess I'll use it to the realm of fantasy football. I personally feel better about the potential options of Devontae Parker, Kenny Stills, and Jarvis Landry with Cutler there over Tannehill, because everyone knows I kind of shit on Ryan Tannehill more often than not. Not a fan of Ryan Tannehill. So yeah, Cutler, I'm disappointed that we're not going to see Jay Cutler in the commentary booth, because I thought he was going to be fucking hilarious. I think he would have had, for any of you guys that have ever watched, on opening week they do the doubleheader, right? So they always have one game, whatever, the fucking opener with the Super Bowl or whatever, rematch. But then the second game is always a game on the West Coast. And the West Coast, for 2 years straight, I remember maybe 5 years ago, Mike Ditka would be it'd be the one time he was in the commentary booth, and it was fucking hilarious. And I figured Jay Cutler may offer something like that. But yeah, I'm more disappointed that he's not going to be in the commentary booth than anything. Let's throw it here to Gronk. Why is this gameplay so slow? I hate this shit. Should I pick Aaron Rodgers first round or second round? Second round if you can. It's never a good idea to go quarterback in the first round. I know in my actually big money league, quarterbacks go really, really quick, because I mentioned before, it is a 6-point touchdown. For passing touchdowns, most commonly you see 4 points for a passing touchdown. So I guess you get a guy like, Aaron Rodgers, who's going to get 40-some goddamn touchdowns potentially. 6 points makes a big difference. Drafted Samaje Perine. Thoughts? Well, we're going to be breaking in the running backs, and I'll talk about that in just 1 second, so that's up next. What other questions? Do we have anything else that I was just fucking blabbering on like an idiot? Wish everyone wanted to know about the Jay Cutler signing. When do I draft Andy Dalton? Oh, we got a fucking penalty. Andy Dalton. Let's see what we got here for Mr. Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton's a guy probably around 50. Around 15? Something like that. You probably could be. I don't think there's going to be a high demand for Andy Dalton. I mean, unless you have a guy that's a Bengals fan in your league. I'd say around 15, I would get Andy Dalton as a quarterback rotation. I definitely wouldn't want Andy Dalton to be my, clear number one. Just say, I'm not drafting a quarterback. I'm just going to get Andy Dalton. You know what I'm saying? A guy like Andy Dalton, again, would work in great rotation. Maybe with, a Cam Newton, Matt Stafford, Mariota. Ben Roethlisberger, that's definitely the biggest one. If you get Ben Roethlisberger, just play him on home games and sit him on the road games. Try to find the best rotation for Ben Roethlisberger. He's unbelievable at home, and on the road, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in fantasy. Let's keep going here. Got some damn notes. as we get ready to go for the running backs. All right, we'll run this play and then we'll start talking about my top 10 RBs, baby. What? Hut the fucking ball with the game animations weren't going so slow and laggy. Looks like we're in goddamn fucking... They take Bucs or Ravens defense. Ravens. Ravens defense is very good against the run, and they have one of the top safety tandems in football. I think the Ravens defense is going to help the... As long as they stay healthy, it seems like the Ravens kind of have the curse of the Chargers right now with everyone going down with injuries. But I would definitely go the Ravens over the Bucs. But if you're in PPR, Quan Alexander, the guy mentioned Quan Alexander in PPR, or not PPR, IDP. I love IDP leagues. Quan Alexander is awesome. As AP's just got to take this off. Oh my God, let's just run this guy over. Shit, we probably should have stiff-armed. All right. We're going to running backs. I see some wide receiver questions. Wait till we get the wide receivers. We're going to try to keep it positional based in the chat. So we're jumping in now to my top 10 running backs. And at number 10, I'm going with Todd Gurley of the Rams. Bounce back year. Now, I was one of the disappointing owners that actually had Todd Gurley on my team last year. I used him as a keeper. He didn't cost me much. I got him like the 20th round. He cost me my 20th round pick. So it wasn't like I drafted Todd Gurley first, second round like some people may have. So it didn't sting as much. I mean, he wasn't terrible either. You got to remember, average about 10 points a week in PPR. Could have been worse. But for Gurley this year, I'm predicting about 1,300 yards from scrimmage. I'm going to be doing yards from scrimmage for these guys because I am in a PPR league. Receptions and receiving yards are really, really valuable. So I'm thinking about 1,300 yards from scrimmage and 9 touchdowns. They definitely went out, kind of did, we know we're not building long-term. We need to be able to run the ball this year by signing Andrew Whitworth, a very good tackle from the Cincinnati Bengals. So I like that move. So I don't know necessarily if that one move is good enough to make the Rams, who had one of the worst offensive lines in football last year, that much better. But it's improved. It's trending in the right direction. And, obviously the left tackle is much more for the Goff, the quarterback. But that also is another key, because if Goff, another year experience, I don't necessarily know what the future holds for Jared Goff, but if he does develop, it means less teams are going to be able to stack the box, which will make life a lot easier for Mr. Todd Gurley. So I would definitely bite on Todd Gurley, late second round, early third round, if he's still there. Especially because it's clear to me that he's definitely developing a little bit more of a receiving game. You're never going to be on the realm of, David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, Shady, the likes of that, even Devontae Freeman. But if he's a guy that can get, I drafted Adrian Peterson in a PPR league, and he had like 8 catches one year versus someone like Danny Woodhead dominates him. Danny Woodhead would be better than AP, even though AP would be like third in the league in rushing. It's crazy in PPR, especially only half-point PPR. It's still... But a guy like Todd Gurley, I think his reception numbers are going to continue to trend in the upwards direction, and you may be able to get, 30 catches, fringe 40 catches from Todd Gurley, so great value there. Going to number 9, I'm going with DeMarco Murray of the Tennessee Titans. This is one that I am personally, I don't want to be biased, don't want to sound like an Eagles homer, salty Eagles fan, because he's, he kind of fucked off when he was here in Philly. I'm a little bit worried about DeMarco Murray, to be honest with you. I think if you draft DeMarco Murray, last year I still don't know how to explain... That's a terrible sack. How good he was, really. It didn't make a whole lot of sense outside of, obviously, tremendous offensive line in Tennessee. But, he's already had some injuries. I think if you do get DeMarco Murray, kind of off of what he did last year, 100% handcuff him with Derrick Henry. I would overdraft Derrick Henry. I have no idea really what his average draft position is right now. But I would say, looking at 8th round, 7th, 8th round, you may have to. I think he's probably going between 7 and 10. So 7th round, absolutely get Derrick Henry, because I would not be surprised. I have a gut feeling that DeMarco Murray is going to miss some time this year with an injury. I can't just, hold that feeling to my rankings, because if he is healthy and he's the starter there in Tennessee, you definitely want a piece of a running back that's beyond that offensive line. But I would say, looking at all of these options, there's no bigger handcuff than Derrick Henry with DeMarco Murray. So make sure you get on that. But yeah, for DeMarco Murray, I'm picking out 1,250 yards from scrimmage and 10 touchdowns in combination with Derrick Henry. Go number 8, we're going to be going Jay Ajayi from the Miami Dolphins. I'm predicting about 1,300 yards from scrimmage and 9 touchdowns. So again, I'm not going to lie. I feel more comfortable with Todd Gurley over DeMarco Murray and Jay Ajayi. The stats don't really lead to that. That's kind of my gut, though. I didn't want to come off too biased because everyone knows I am a big fan of Todd Gurley. But Jay Ajayi, last year, it really was boom or bust. Some weeks... he never had a terrible week, but it seemed like with Jay Ajayi, some weeks he'd get 60 rushing yards, no touchdowns, and then obviously another week he'd get 200 goddamn yards and 2 touchdowns. So boom or bust. I definitely think the ceiling is high. With Jay Cutler there, not a whole lot's going to change. You may think, oh, starting quarterback goes down. They're just going to try to run the ball too much. Teams are going to stack the box. But I think Jay Cutler is still going to keep teams honest, especially with those wide receivers. And the offensive line in Miami is not bad. It's definitely, I'd give the offensive line in Miami like a C+. So it's not terrible. They can definitely run the ball well. It's not a lot of change up from the year before where they were able to run the ball. So I feel comfortable with Jay Ajayi definitely being a top 10 running back. Doesn't offer a whole lot in terms of PPR. But obviously we're not really talking full-on PPR because we're doing 1-point PPR. Obviously the likes of Danny Woodhead and Ty Montgomery will be mentioned. They're not going to be here. Moving on to number 7, it's going to be Melvin Gordon of the LA Chargers. I'm predicting about 1,400 yards from scrimmage and 10 touchdowns for Melvin Gordon coming back healthy. I'm not a huge fan of Melvin Gordon when I really talk about him. It's one of those things. Obviously, they improved the offensive line, even though Forrest Lamp went down with a season-ending injury because the Chargers beat the Chargers. But they still are going to have Dan Feeney there, improvement at guard. Offensive line's a little bit worrisome, but he's really involved in the offense, and especially in PPR. Again, keep bringing it back up. If you don't play PPR, you're like, oh my God, stop talking about it. But I mean, if you're not playing PPR, you're missing out. I think every league right now, it's almost standard scoring, half-point PPR. That's the way I feel. But Melvin Gordon does get involved in that pass attack. They love to throw the ball, as we were talking about Phillip Rivers when we were ranking our quarterbacks. So I think a guy like Melvin Gordon, I feel like he will break 1,000 yards. He was like 997 last year before he got hurt, which kind of sucks, so he didn't break that century yard mark. But you definitely saw significant improvement. Maybe, debatably the most improved running back in football last year was Melvin Ingram after real bad rookie season. I think real bad's probably the nicest way to put it, where he really was outshone by Todd Gurley. Okay, rest in peace, 25. But yeah, I definitely like Melvin Gordon. But again, kind of the same thing, man. Is it karma? Did they build their stadium on like a fucking Indian burial ground or something like that? It seems like if you draft a Charger, just be aware that the probability of them getting injured and out for the year is pretty damn high. So have that in the back of your head when you draft Melvin Gordon. Go number 6. It's Devonta Freeman of the Atlanta Falcons. I believe they re-signed him. Obviously, you need to be a little bit worried about Tevin Coleman. If you can handcuff the two, I would try, but that's an expensive handcuff because I'd say Tevin Coleman's probably going around 5, 6, somewhere around that because it is so goddamn dual threat. But Freeman is the clear number 1. I predict about 1,400 yards from scrimmage and 12 touchdowns. I actually really like Devonta Freeman, especially where he's going in the second round, like mid-late second round. I'd be all over that, man. PPR, again, he's great for PPR. Get plenty of receptions there. Even though, there is a time and a place where they do like to utilize Tevin Coleman on third downs. I would say maybe a Falcon, if you're a Falcon fan, you may be trying to go balls hard to get Freeman and Tevin Coleman for a handcuff. But I really do like Devonta Freeman. Really solid. Really consistent, too. Has been consistent. So, Melvin Ingram, yeah, Melvin Gordon, Melvin Ingram, whatever. They're brothers, all right? That's what happens. All right, moving on from Devonta Freeman, number 6. At number 5, we're going Jordan Howard of the Chicago Bears. Someone already asked real early on in the stream how do I feel about him. I like him a lot. I think, be it Trubisky or Glennon, the passing attack's going to struggle. Oh, come on, Keanu O'Neal. The passing attack's going to struggle, but what you need to look at the Bears is their offensive line's good. Between Cody Whitehair, Kyle Long, Josh Sitton, that interior running right up the middle with Jordan Howard. Give me some of that. I mean, you're not going to get much in terms of PPR from Jordan Howard, but looking for an old school, this guy's going to get you between 75 and like 130 rushing yards a week and a touchdown. Consistent play, I believe you could say, and write that down this year. Who the fuck is this guy? Stephen McNair. I like Jordan Howard, man. I'm predicting about 1,500 yards from scrimmage and 11 rushing touchdowns for Jordan Howard. I definitely want a piece of Jordan Howard. He's probably going, late first round. I would get on that. I would say there's definitely better options if you're going pure PPR around this range. It's going to be the running back we're going to talk about at number 3. But like I said, I'm a big fan of Jordan Howard, even though it seems like EA ratings, NFL top 100 just keep shitting on him. Go number 4, I'm going with Ezekiel Elliott of the Dallas Cowgirls. There's going to be someone to say, oh my God, Zeke's top 3. You're crazy. With that suspension looming, and again, PPR is not as valuable as the top 3 guys in PPR, and more so that suspension. I'm very worried. Obviously, if he plays a full 16 games behind that offensive line, he's going to be really consistent. But I'm predicting about 1,700 yards from scrimmage and 15 touchdowns. I just have a gut feeling that Zeke is not going to get as many yards as he did last year. The touchdowns are going to be pretty goddamn consistent. I don't think they're going to trust the ball in Alfred Morris or Darren McFadden's hands right in the red zone. I just feel like they're going to try. They don't want to run him in the ground. Like, you looked at it last year, considering the running backs that they had. I mean, he's not going to be able to keep that up and stay injury-free. So I think it'd be best bet for the Cowboys to get a more rotation, because you have 3 guys that could debatably be starters in this league. Obviously, different cases if you had Alfred Morris and Darren McFadden. But both those guys, if they're on their day, they could start in this league. They have been proven starters before. So I just think less touches for Zeke this year, just so they don't really, burn the candle at both ends with him. But still, top 5 running back, absolutely. Even though it pains me to say that as an Eagles fan. Going number 3, I'm going LeSean McCoy on the Buffalo Bills. Again, Salt Eagles fan, no more. No more Michael Ilsley vulturing his touchdowns. I like LeSean, especially in PPR, predicting about 750 yards from scrimmage and 16 touchdowns. I mean, last year his yards were great. His receptions were great. It was just Michael Ilsley had 9 damn touchdowns. Now he's gone to New England. So now those touchdowns kind of are opening up. Obviously, he's not going to can't just say, easily he's going to get those 9 touchdowns added to his thing for his projections. But I do believe, I would say 4 to 5 extra touchdowns right now without Michael Ilsley in that backfield. So I definitely want a piece of LeSean McCoy. Sure, there is slight injury risk. I mean, running back, there's always a slight injury risk with everyone. But I am definitely buying LeSean McCoy this year. I'm telling you that right now. Going number 2 is going to be Le'Veon Bell from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm predicting about 1,900 yards from scrimmage and 15 touchdowns. It really is, PPR or not. If you're in PPR, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson has to go 1-2. If you're not going 1-2, I want to be in your league, especially with the money league, because you guys know what the fuck you're doing. They're the 2 most valuable players in fantasy football. Reason why Le'Veon's number 2 and not number 1 is because he's proven to be an idiot off the field. You never know. He's got to make a diss track about Goodell and get spent at 4 games. Something stupid like that. You know that's going to happen. I mean, even though he does want to get paid big money, and maybe he wants to be on his best behavior, you just have that track record of being just an idiot off the field, which is why I just have it number 2, because, until he proves otherwise, until he goes this 1 year with no suspensions, no off-field bullshit, he's not going to be the safest option. And we're talking about the number 1 running back. You want the safest guy, and that's going to be David Johnson of the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think he's going to get 2,000 total yards again. I think last year's was just ridiculous. I'm going to say 1,950 yards from scrimmage and 17 rushing touchdowns for David Johnson. In my opinion, he was the most valuable player in the league last year. I obviously know MVP goes to pretty much the best player that made the playoffs. But David Johnson was simply incredible. I know he's coming off an injury, but I believe he will bounce back 100% and be a very valuable part for that Cardinals team that really is boom or bust this season, as it may be the last year for Larry Fitzgerald and Carson Palmer. So give me some David Johnson. If you're picking number 1, David Johnson has to be the guy that you get. Looking at some sleepers, I like Danny Woodhead of the Ravens. He may be, now with Dixon gone, he may actually get a lot more rushing attempts. He's already was going to be great value in PPR, but I think they may actually utilize him much more as a between the tackle runner than his original value would have led you to believe. And I like Duke Johnson, especially in terms of PPR, as it's he's going to be the third down back. He's going to be the passing back in that Browns offense, as well as I believe you might get some slot receiver out of him. So kind of like where Ty Montgomery was classified as a wide receiver for a lot of fantasy last year and played running back, you may get the inverse of that with Duke Johnson, where he's a running back, but he'll get plenty of receptions because he may play slot receiver for the Browns. So a little bit of hidden value there. So that is definition of a sleeper anytime you get some hidden value. For bust, I don't like Doug Martin. I'm not touching Doug Martin. Don't really want to touch anything. I think they're going to be a pass-happy offense anyway in Tampa Bay. And then I'm going Leonard Fournette. I'm saying Leonard Fournette as a bust. I do not trust that Jags offensive line. I love Leonard Fournette as much as a Gator can like a player that went to LSU. I think he's an absolute beast. He's going to be fun as hell to watch in Madden. Or watch in Madden. To play with in Madden. I think he's going to be fun to watch for the most part. But I do not trust that offensive line and where he's going. He's going the second round for what may be one of the most shit offensive lines in football. Outside of their center, Linder, not a whole lot there. You got the rookie Robinson, Cam Robinson. Anytime you start with a rookie on the offensive line, a little bit worried. So I just think Leonard Fournette, in relation to where he's going the second round, let someone else do that. Late third would be Leonard Fournette for me. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the rookie backs early. Obviously, when you look at the likes of Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon, in terms of PPR, their value starts to rise a little bit. But I'm not trusting that offensive line. But I'm not using my second pick And I'm saying with that second pick by getting Leonard Fournette, man, the Jags O-line's going to be good this year. They're going to make plenty of holes. I see absolutely what happened with Todd Gurley last year happening with Leonard Fournette. And for Dynasty pick, it's going to be Joe Mixon. I'm not in agreement with the consensus about Joe Mixon this year. A lot of people are saying, oh, he might be the number one there with Hill and Giovanni Bernard. I think there's too many mouths to feed, but Jeremy Hill's set to be a free agent. And I think a guy like Joe Mixon can eventually take over and be the lead back there. So I think if you're looking long-term, you may get a little bit value in terms of PPR with Joe Mixon this year. But looking towards next season, he very well may up being the next David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell type next year if he's the lead back there in Cincy. So those are your running back ratings. I'm going to try to answer some questions about running backs. Like I said, guys, try to keep it positional as we work our way through here so that when people are watching this back, they can kind of keep an eye with the positions. So we got Samaje Perine late. I do like Fat Rob as much. Like I said, Fat Rob in terms of fantasy. Hate him as an Eagles fan. But I think it's going to be even carries if Fat Rob does slow down. I don't think they're outright going to make Perine the number one starter. So I'd probably look at getting Perine late draft, rural late. Definitely, if you have Fat Rob, handcuff. Very important handcuff. Paul Perkins, offensive line sucks. I mean, again, I didn't hate Paul Perkins at UCLA. I'm not just saying that as an Eagle fan that hates the Giants, but that offensive line is not good. They have the passing attack. The only reason why any running back could even not look terrible in New York is because of the passing attack. They're going to not have a fullbacks a lot of the times, but they have a terrible offensive line. So Paul Perkins, even though he is going to be the running back one there in New York, I would say he has a short lease as a running back one because Dark was not bad. Gallman's not bad. You got Vereen as a receiving back, so PPR is limited for Perkins. I'd say 5th round, probably 5th, 6th round for Paul Perkins. Project Montgomery stats. I'm going to say about 1,100 total yards from scrimmage, like 70 receptions. He's got real good reception numbers. I would definitely want a piece of Ty Montgomery in PPR. Just wouldn't overdraft him because it's one of those things. Oh, come on. If it doesn't work, they have Jamal Williams there, the rookie out of BYU. That's a more traditional running back. So if you could just see if the Packers have a slow start to the year like they did last year because of the lack of running game, which is what, in my opinion, why they had the slow start to begin last year. I think they now they have a capable running back, not just fucking Don Johnson or whoever the fuck was their backup last year. So yeah, Montgomery PPR. If you're not in PPR, I probably would hold off on Montgomery a little bit. Should you draft Gillespie? He's touchdown dependent, but sure. I'd definitely keep an eye on it. Late round draft pick, though. Don't overdraft for it. What if you stake both David Johnson and Jordan Howard? Then I want in that league if you can get both those guys. Rounds 1 and 2. I mean, small. That's actually not that unrealistic, but I'd like that. Go for that. I'm an old school guy, man. A lot of people now are like, I gotta be the first to draft a tight end. I gotta be the first to draft Gronk. I gotta be the first to draft a quarterback. If there's 2 elite running backs is the way to go. And it's just as long as you handcuff them. LeGarrette Blount, again, kind of like Michael Lilley, touchdown dependent. I'm going to say about between 700 800. I don't think he's going to break 1,000. He's not going to be as good as he was in New England. Touchdowns should be high, though. I'm going to say double-digit touchdowns for LeGarrette Blount. I'd say he's about a running back 2 in fantasy. Thoughts on James Conner? If you get Le'Veon Bell, 100% handcuff James Conner. 100%. All right. We're moving on from the running backs. Wide receivers up next. I'm going to kind of look through these questions just to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Thoughts on Theo Riddick? Great in PPR. I'm debating keeping him in my fantasy league. He's one of my options as a keeper. Right now, it's really between Theo Riddick and Fat Rob. So, I mean, both not great. The Amir Abdullah coming back for Detroit. You have to be aware about that. But he's always been valuable in PPR. Always can give you 50, 60 receptions. So, like, if you flex, I'd say Theo Riddick's like a flex. I have in my league 2 flex spots. So I definitely have Theo Riddick as a flex 2 starter on most weeks. Carlos Hyde, like that. I think Carlos Hyde, intriguing. That's the best way to say it. I wouldn't overdraft him, but if he's there in the 3rd round, 100%, because Kyle Shanahan liked his running backs in in Atlanta. And Carlos Hyde is talented. He's a talented playmaker. So I think the touches are going to be there. Obviously, the team around him is not spectacular. But I'm very intrigued with Carlos Hyde. Kareem Hunt, that's more of a flyer, late round flyer, good for a dynasty pick. could emerge as the starter at some point during the year. I think they're going to give Spencer Ware the majority of the carries earlier on. But looking towards the 2018 season, he's definitely a guy, if you're in a keeper league, I would be all about that. Same goes with Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook, I think he's going to be one of those guys that gets overdrafted because Murray might not be healthy. But I think when Latavius comes back, you don't play him decent money not to use him. So I think you may, I don't know the significance of Latavius Murray's injury. But if he's back like week 3, week 4, I think it might be a running back by committee. So Dalvin Cook does have good value. Just don't overdraft him. CJ Prosise. Yeah, man. Like him in PPR. Clearly, Rawls is not going to be a receiving back, and Eddie Lacy's not a receiving back, so there is some good value there in PPR. Carlos Hyde might get. That's going to be. I'm going to say if you think Carlos Hyde's going to get cut, I have fucking magic green beans that grow up to the heavens for you. He's on like a rookie deal. He costs absolutely nothing. There's nothing to gain from them cutting him. They're going to save like fucking $500,000 of cap for a guy that was probably on pace for 1,000 yards last year on a team that has severely lacking in talent on the offensive side of the ball. I don't see that happening whatsoever. In a mock, I got Johnson first and Howard 4th round for Jordan Howard. That is crazy, man. You made me draft C4. You made me draft Toby Gurley a few years ago in the 3rd round, but I forgive you. See, I've learned that I can admit I have my faults. I have homer picks, but putting Zeke top 5 and talking about Shady and DeMarco Murray, I've learned to not be as biased in my fantasy rankings because people actually, I want to have make people feel special if they win money. Like I said, the rules in the comments. If you win money in your league because of my things, maybe come back, hit me up with a nice little super chat donation. All right, now let's jump into the wide receivers, fellas. Let me just move the little sheets over here. All right, jumping to the wide receivers. At number 10, again, trying my best every single day to be less biased. Let me have a swig of my drink here. Dez Bryant. I actually have Dez Bryant number 10. I think he's one of the more overrated players, constantly overvalued players, but his touchdowns are so damn consistent. If he can stay healthy, you have the injury proneness. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be, my predictions for Dez is about 70 catches, 1,000 yards, and 12 touchdowns. His touchdowns are always going to be really, really high. I really just feel like you can't not consider Dez. I think I don't really know how to explain it with Dez. On one side, fuck Dez Bryant. On the other side, he always gets like fridge double-digit touchdowns. So, number 10. I'm just going to put him number 10. We're going to leave it at that. You get to pick between 1 and 10. I'm a fan of either 1 or 2, 8, 9, or 10. I like either real early or real late. Nothing in the middle. Anyway, so Dez is at number 10 for wide receivers. At number 9, I'm going Doug Baldwin of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going with about 75 catches, 1,050 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Oh, we get a fucking flag here. Again, real consistent. I mean, he's constantly underrated. He may be a guy that slips in your draft, 3rd round, 4th round, somewhere like that. I'd be all over that because he's been consistent. Nothing really as good as his final 4 weeks 2 years ago where he got like 3 touchdowns a game. But the rapport he has with Russell Wilson, still the number 1 target. The fact that Jimmy Graham is emerging as a tight end finally after really not doing anything since he came from the Saints is helping his value a lot because he's not going to get double teamed as much and they're not going to be as much safety help because they have to help old Jimmy Graham there. So I definitely do like Doug Baldwin. Again, anytime you draft CL Seahawk, you got to be worried about that offensive line, which can cause, it's a downward spiral. The offensive line sucks, then the quarterback sucks. If the quarterback sucks, wide receivers aren't getting production. But I still am a fan, and I like the consistent numbers for Doug Baldwin over the last 3 years. Enough so that I can put him as my number 9 wide receiver. Throw the shit to Gresham. Go number 8. It's going to be in the sophomore season, Mr. Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints. Now the undisputed wide receiver 1 there with Brandon Cooks going to the Patriots. I'm going 95 catches for Michael Thomas, 1,150 yards, and 10 touchdowns. I know this is one of the Kind of controversial picks because there's plenty of people that think he's going to have a sophomore slump. I'm betting high on Michael Thomas. Has a great rapport with Drew Brees established already. They're never not going to throw the ball. He's going to get an unbelievable amount of targets. Kind of see a little bit of what happened with Jameis Winston and Mike Evans, where Drew Brees Drew Brees is a good enough quarterback not to consistently force the throw, but he's gonna I don't want to say force throw. I don't know what the proper term would be. He's gonna be looking a lot to go to Michael Thomas. So I would definitely jump up on Michael Thomas. Number 8 wide receiver, man, absolutely agree with that. Go number 7, I'm going T.Y. Hilton of the Indianapolis Colts, last year's leader in receiving yards. Obviously, touchdowns aren't that great. He's definitely yards dependent. Also, gonna worry, this could fluctuate a little bit if Andrew Luck does miss significant time. But very similar to Michael Thomas, very pass-happy offense. I'm saying about 80 catches for 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns for Hilton. So the yards are going to be very, very sexy. A little bit more touchdowns than he had last year. I think I don't know his exact number of touchdowns he had last year. I think it was 6. Yeah, 6 total touchdowns last year. But the yards are always crazy with Mr. T.Y. Hilton. So, you can get on. And he's relatively healthy. He doesn't miss a lot of games, which is always something you want to look forward to in your wide receiver. You don't want to draft anyone that misses something. So, number 7 there for T.Y. Hilton. Go number 6, I'm going with Jordy Nelson on the Green Bay Packers. Lead leaguer in touchdowns last year. Finished with 1,200 yards, almost 100 catches, and 14 touchdowns. My projections for him this year, about 85 catches, 1,100 yards, and 12 touchdowns. I do believe where he was valuable, Jordy Nelson's kind of red zone and big play. And I think the red zone, with the addition of Martellus Bennett, it's going to hurt him just a little bit. But, you always want to get a piece of someone in that in the Packers wide receiver core. Probably not so much Randall Cobb anymore, but Devontae Adams and Jordy Nelson, those are going to be guys that you definitely want to try to target. But Jordy Nelson, very, very consistent when he's healthy outside of that 1 year, obviously, when he missed it. So, yeah, definitely fringe top 5 wide receiver in Jordy Nelson. Go number 5, I'm going with A.J. Green of the Cincinnati Bengals, coming back off an injury. I'm going about 80 catches, 1,250 yards, and 10 touchdowns before he got shut down early last year. He's been, low-key one of the most consistent wide receivers in fantasy football, always breaking 1,000 yards. When healthy, now with the addition of John Ross, John Ross is going to take the top off that defense. Things are going to be open underneath for A.J. Green. He has good speed, so he can just straight up just run right along with John Ross. The jump ball, one of the most complete wide, I'm not even going to say one of the most. He is a complete wide receiver, complete superstar. And the fact that he's going, second round, mid-second round, definitely, with me personally, I pick 8 in my league. If I can't get a good running back on the backswing, A.J. Green is definitely a guy I want to try to target in the second round. Go number 4, I'm going Odell Beckham Jr. of the Giants. Oh, Odell. He's good. I hate that guy, but he's good. I'm saying about 90 catches for Odell, 1,350 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Obviously, you have Sterling Shepard, who picked up an injury. So there's definitely going to keep an eye on that. If he is there, he's a guy that can certainly eat into his targets. Same goes with the big acquisition of Braden Marshall. I kind of think he's overrated, to be completely honest with you, which we might talk about a little bit in the near future. Just because of his age and stuff, man, you hit the wall. You just hit the wall. I feel like that's going to happen with Braden Marshall. He's not going to be bad. He's definitely going to eat a little bit into Odell's numbers, especially, I think, in the touchdown department. But still, top 5 wide receiver, even though, fuck that guy. Fuck Odell. Going number 3, I'm going Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm saying about 85 catches, 1,300 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Even with the addition of Deshaun Jackson, O.J. Howard, Chris Godwin, they're still going to force the ball to Mike Evans. He's just you can't cover him. He's literally like Julio Jones. They're going to throw the ball to him. What are you going to do? You're not going to be able to stop him. It's just, that's just what it is. It's simply Mike Evans is a beast. And give me some of that with Mike Evans. Obviously, I think his receptions, he's been fringe 100 receptions the last 2 years. I think with Deshaun Jackson there, who's been comparable to Deshaun Jackson? Who's been the 2? The running, oh my God. AP! Who's been the wide receiver 2 there in Tampa Bay? Last year it would have been like Vincent Jackson. So clearly Deshaun Jackson, the more talented of the Jackson clan, is definitely going to eat more into his targets. But Mike Evans still a beast. Give him a number 3. AJ mid-second, what league are you mock drafting in? You get him in a 10 team, AJ Green's probably going anywhere between 10 and 15 right now. I'm pretty sure his ADP is somewhere around that, double digits for sure. Like he's slipping out of the first round in plenty of mock drafts. Go number 2 for wide receiver. We're going Julio Jones of the Atlanta Falcons. I'm predicting about 95 catches, 1,600 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Kind of like T.Y. Hilton. Julio's never been like a big touchdown guy. Looking at it like the last couple years, we got 6 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns last year. So he's always, a yards, reception kind of guy. Oh my God, don't give me the fucking penalty. Jesus Christ, this is a body bag. But yeah, man, Julio's going to be good. Obviously, I don't think Matt Ryan's going to replicate his MVP-like form last year, which certainly will take a little bit of a dip on Julio. But, I mean, you can't go wrong between Julio and the number 1 pick. Just be happy that you get him. I think Julio definitely should still be top 5 pick in fantasy. Number 1 wide receiver, Antonio Brown, AB, PPR. He's a monster. He's a guy that's going to get you, if anyone's going to get 120 receptions, it's going to be Antonio Brown. I definitely think the addition of Martavis Bryant is going to help him, then not help him, because now teams aren't just going to double team. They have to respect Martavis on the outside. So that's a plus in the right direction for Antonio Brown. My projection for him is about 110 catches, 1,450 yards, and 12 touchdowns. It's one of those debates where in terms of fantasy, give me AB every year over Julio. In real life, you probably might want to go towards Julio Jones in that direction. But AB is what it is. I don't think, be conscientious of road games, because we know how bad Ben Roethlisberger likes to play on the road. Just be a little bit worried. Like, there are some road games, especially against tough defenses, Antonio Brown could fall down to a wide receiver 2, like a low wide receiver 1, high wide receiver 2. Like, if you say, the Ravens on the road, might be a little bit worried about that. But AB has to be the number 1. Has to be number 1 for me. Looking at sleepers, I do like Terrell Pryor. I like Terrell Pryor in Washington. They throw the ball a lot there, and he's clearly the number 1. So I definitely would like Terrell Pryor. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head what his average draft position is, but like 5th, if you can get him, I'm just going to guess, probably 5th, 6th round. Oh my God, come on, Chris Baker. I think he probably has good value. I like Martavis Bryant going back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Anytime you can get anyone on that explosive offense, it's great. And I like Brashad Perriman of the Baltimore Ravens. I've heard reports he's had a great camp. If he can stay healthy, I like that. I like once Joe Flacco comes back. I mean, obviously, again, get to monitor the injury. If Joe Flacco missed significant time, you probably don't want to touch anyone outside of probably Danny Woodhead on that Ravens offense. But if Flacco comes back, you may have similar production than when Torrey Smith was back there with Baltimore. For bust, number 1 is Dante Moncrief. Kind of, piggybacking what we said with Perriman. If Luck misses any extended time, Moncrief is kind of like a shit Dez Bryant, where he is very touchdown dependent. And I feel like if Andrew Luck misses some time, I'm not high on Moncrief. I think he's getting overdrafted. Brandon Marshall's the other bust. Like I said, I just think, age, father time will catch up to him. And a lot of people are acting like him and Odell are going to be the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver duo in football. And I don't think that's the case. For dynasty pick, I like Zay Jones. I think Zay Jones is going to emerge himself as the Bills' number 2 wide receiver, and give Tyrod an option so he doesn't always have to throw the ball all the way downfield. So it could be Charles Clay and Zay Jones working underneath, and the fact that you could definitely get Zay Jones, fucking 12th round plus. I definitely want a lot of Zay Jones. Great hands, great production history. Definitely keep an eye on him for your keeper rounds. That's wide receivers, fellas. We're almost fucking done. We're probably going to be able to play one more game. Let's take a look at some questions here about the wide receivers. Davante Adams lets me down every year. You definitely wouldn't want Davante Adams to be much more than like a flex pick, just because outside of Jordy Nelson, I mean, it's frustrating having any Packer wide receiver. You kind of want one. It's like, I don't know what a good analogy is. Like, you want a Packer wide receiver because Aaron Rodgers is going to go off, but it's like, who's going to do good that week? I would say Jordy Nelson's the safest, but then again, he's going to be most expensive in terms of draft position. But yeah, I just don't invest too heavily in a guy like Davante Adams. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Just try to get him as like wide receiver 3 flex, somewhere like that. Allen Robinson bounce back year, maybe. I'd say maybe. I'm not super sold on Blake Bortles as a whole, but, I think Allen Robinson can be a serviceable wide receiver too. Thoughts on Corey Coleman, Josh Doxson. Corey Coleman, I'd be kind of iffy to draft any Browns players on the offensive side of the ball. Get him late because of the upside, but until we can see, the first couple of games and really see, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be for the Browns at this point. Be cautiously optimistic. What else we got here? Josh Doxson, sleeper. Maybe draft him late and see what he can do. Again, mystery kind of pick. Go with your gut on it. If you think he's going to be good, like obviously it's tough for me because I'm biased. I hate the Redskins. I do like Terrell Pryor though. But Doxson, yeah, definitely could be a late round guy that might be going undrafted. See what you can do on a flyer. What do you got here? Jordy Nelson or Devontae Adams, if you had to pick. Jordy Nelson. Thoughts on Deshaun Jackson and Rashard Matthews? I like Deshaun Jackson, man. Deep ball threat for the big arm quarterback. Jameis Winston likes to throw the ball downfield, and there's going to be plenty of one-on-one matchups because you got to try to stop the beast Mike Evans. Rashard Matthews, a little bit more risky. I think he could be a guy that gets, there's going to be one guy between him, Eric Decker, and Corey Davis that get kind of lost in the shuffle there in Tennessee. So, I mean, maybe you hold on a little bit. Hopefully your draft's a little bit later. You get the preseason and maybe get a little bit more clarity for the Titans wide receiver core. Michael Thomas could be a beast. I agree. What am I drinking? Rum and Pepsi. Which I just finished because my voice is getting kind of raspy. Thoughts on Torrey Smith? He'd be like a low flex option based off matchup, but again, one of those things. Just wait. I want to wait and see what happens to the Philly wide receiver core. Howard or Jai? Howard. What do you think about Curtis Samuel? Last round, absolute last round, and you're probably got to sit him. Park him on the bench. A dynasty league, I wouldn't. If you're not in a dynasty league, you're just in a 1 year rotation. I'd probably last round. It's an intriguing option because he is like the deep threat, speedster, gimmicky, gadget type player on the Panthers. So I'm not gonna say don't draft him, but more value in dynasty leagues. All right, last question for the wide receivers. Thoughts on Chris Hogan? Touchdown dependent. I think there's a lot of mouths to feed there in New England. Obviously with Brandon Cooks. Julian Edelman's always good at PPR. Gronk healthy. I think that might come into Hogan's production because he's a bigger wide receiver. Mike Evans in round 2, 100%. If Mike Evans is there in round 2, I want to try to get Mike Evans in round 1. If he's there in round 2, go for it. If I pick second in standard, who do I look for at 19, 22nd? So number 2, you're definitely getting Le'Veon Bell or David Johnson. So on the backswing, I mean, there may be a running back that slips. I don't know how your league goes. So if there is still a running back there in the second round, 19, 22nd, like you may get lucky with Melvin Gordon, Freeman, Ajay, Gurley type. If not, top wide receiver. Like looking at that range, Jordy Nelson, you may be lucky, AJ Green, Michael Thomas, Doug Baldwin. But, I mean, again, like I said, there's the big divide amongst the fantasy community. Do you go running back, old school mentality, thinking you get your 2 running backs, or now the new school where wide receivers are actually more dominant and less injury prone? So, I'm going to say around that range, those should be the names that are still there. You may still be able to, if you can get a guy that has running back 1 potential, and you already drafted a Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, I'd go running back. Back-to-back running backs, because you can make it up for the wide receiver. All right, how the fuck do I adjust this gameplay? That's what I want to do here. Like, is everything the same difficulty? Like, play the next game of this event, okay. But how do I change the difficulty? Like, it just takes me right to the fucking game. I don't know. But moving on, wide receivers are now done. We've done a couple questions here. All right, so we got tight ends and defenses. We're just gonna pound our way through this one here, fellas. So for tight ends, at number 10, I'm going with Martellus Bennett on the Green Bay Packers. I'm projecting about 60 catches, 650 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Again, kind of just more so. He's a talented tight end, even though he's getting up there in age. Talented tight end, just dominant in the red zone, and he has Aaron Rodgers as quarterback. Obviously, if you're waiting this long, you're getting down to the nitty gritty. Obviously, I usually like to get a middle tier tight end. Like I never get like a Gronk or a Kelsey, but I always get someone in the middle. I don't like to wait too long because tight ends are fairly valuable if you get consistent ones. I think a guy like Martellus Bennett will consistently get, I like it. I like Martellus Bennett. So number 10, those are not bad stats either. Those are definitely like I said, top 10 stats. Going up 9 is going to be Kyle Rudolph on the Minnesota Vikings. I see about 70 catches, 700 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Last year, Got so many checkdowns from Sam Bradford. If you're in PPR, maybe a slight bump. If you're in 1 point PPR, I mean, he has potential to get fucking like 90 catches. Half sarcastic, half not sarcastic, with the amount of checkdowns that Sam Bradford did last year. Yes, Kyle Rudolph's not bad. I mean, always been a big target. He's been kind of consistent when he is healthy. So I think a guy like Kyle Rudolph, it's a safe play. He's not going to be a guy that will give you a lot of high scoring weeks, but consistent play at the tight end position is pretty much all you can ask for if you missed out on some of the elite guys. If you can get, obviously, the likes of Gronk, Travis Kelce, Greg Olsen, Jordan Reed, Jimmy Graham, guys like that we will be talking about, they're the kind of guys that can get you 20, 25 points. But guys like Kyle Rudolph, he can get you 10 points a week. And a lot of people, if you wait that long, that's some decent, solid production there. And he's not as hot as Cole. He's consistent throughout the season. Go number 8. It's going to be Zach Ertz on the Philadelphia Eagles. Predicted about 65 catches, 750 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Surely with Alshon Jeffrey now, the improved wide receiver core, his targets are going to go down a little bit. But Zach Ertz down the back end of the stretch. People are already saying in the chat, late November, December, Zach Ertz is always picks it up. I mean, amongst the Philadelphia Eagle fans, it's always in the preseason. Is this going to be the year for Zach Ertz? Is he finally going to, put it all together? Still, he's been solid, though. Even though he is kind of a meme amongst the Philadelphia Eagles community, he's consistently, a top 10 scoring tight end in fantasy. I don't see that changing. I do believe, there's the two ways of thinking. One way you could say with a new improved wide receivers, maybe it's going to open up for Zach Ertz a little bit, which, it is a valid assumption. I believe it's going to be, as an Eagle fan, the inverse, slightly less targets because, Ertz pretty much at times was like our number one receiving threat. So now he's not going to be like the clear number one go-to, but he does have the rapport now with Carson Wentz, safety net option. And again, big play late in the season, especially once you get into like playoff contention. A guy like Zach Ertz does have lots of value. Number 7, I'm going Delanie Walker of the Tennessee Titans. Projected about 65 catches, 800 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Again, when healthy, very consistent. I know they brought in Jonnu Smith. They drafted him. He's a decent tight end, but I still think at least one more year of Delanie Walker. Safety net, kind of in the mold of a Zach Ertz a little bit. I'd say he's a little bit more consistent than Zach Ertz. Again, Delanie Walker kind of in more where Zach Ertz is boom or bust, and the boom is great with Zach Ertz. A guy like Delanie Walker kind of falls in the Kyle Rudolph mold where, again, 10-point consistently throughout the year. I can get on with that. And, good rapport at the quarterback, like I said. Go number 6, it's going to be Tyler Eifert of the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm saying about 50 catches, 650 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Kind of a touchdown-dependent tight end versus, a guy's going to get a bunch of targets and a bunch of yards. I mean, it was a year ago. He got what year was it? 2 years ago? How many touchdowns did he get? I got my little stats here. You bust up my stats, put on my fucking glasses. How many, what year was that? Fuck. Jesus Christ, this list is ridiculous. If Tyler Eifert is the 13th tight end. He had 13 touchdowns, that's odd. 13 touchdowns a year ago. I think it's going to be somewhere between there. You got a healthy A.J. Green. You now got John Ross. Again, maybe a little bit. He's never been a target guy. He's very touchdown dependent. If you're a Bengal fan, feel confident getting him. If you have Andy Dalton in a quarterback rotation, there is some added value because you can double up on the touchdowns there with Eifert. But assuming that he's healthy, he's usually going to be, top 3 in terms of touchdowns for a tight end. Go number 5, I'm going Jordan Reed of the Washington Redskins. Kind of a hot take. His stats don't really, if you look at my projected stats, look a little bit better. I think about 70 catches, 950 yards, 7 touchdowns. My thing with Jordan Reed, though, definitely think he's top 3 tight end, especially in fantasy PPR. Is injury, man. He's like 1 concussion away from retiring. So it's a huge gamble. In terms of production, I would say he's top 3 tight end. The fact that you have the big injury concern is why I have to put him at number 5. I mean, I am split on Jordan Reed. He is on the Redskins. Fuck that. But he is from Florida. I love you, bro. But, as a guy, I personally have had Jordan Reed the last 2 years. And when he's hot, man, he's fucking hot. He's a guy that can get you 20, 25, 30 points a week in PPR. But then, he misses so much time. So, if you do draft Jordan Reed, be proactive. If you draft Jordan Reed, 100% try to target a Zach Ertz, Kyle Rudolph, Martellus Bennett. Some of the guys at the back end of this list, because I do think he's the kind of guy I don't think he'll go through a season ever without getting hurt. High upside, get a safety net. I wouldn't say like draft the backup there. I don't even know who the fucking backup is in Washington right now. It's like Niles Paul still, but get 2 tight ends. I know it's kind of full pod to carry 2 tight ends in your roster. I usually don't, but a guy like Jordan Reed definitely warrants it. Going number 4, I'm going Jimmy Graham of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm projecting about 65 catches, 950 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Finally, last year he's showing a little bit of the Jimmy Graham that we saw in New Orleans. Kind of talking with Jimmy Graham, it's like what I was talking about with every Seattle Seahawk. Be conscientious of the terrible offensive line and questionable run game, because once again, if offensive line sucks, then you're going to get shitty quarterback play, and shitty quarterback play equals shitty receiving play. So be conscientious. Again, I actually think a guy like Jimmy Graham may warrant having 2 tight ends on your roster because he may be matchup dependent. If you know the Seahawks are going up against a team that has a great defensive line, I would say just off the top of my head, who's a great defensive line? Even the Rams, maybe. The Rams. You may want to switch out Jimmy Graham. If you have a favorable matchup, he's going to be a beast. Top 5 tight end all day. But again, be conscientious of the offensive line and the matchups for Seattle. And if I have Jimmy Graham, I probably will be trying to look late for a Kyle Rudolph, Martellus Bennett type. Oh, yes, Ethan said Vernon Davis. I was talking about Niles Paul as the backup on Washington. It is Vernon Davis. He was actually pretty decent last year in coming in and filling in for Jordan Reed. But yeah, Jimmy Graham's still good enough at number 4. Just look at getting a backup with him. Going number 3, we're going G-Rag with his third leg. Greg Olsen from the Carolina Panthers. Consistent. Very, very consistent. He's like the A.J. Green of tight ends. I'm projecting about 80 catches, 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Obviously, with Funchess and Kelvin Benjamin, they're going to have Curtis Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. Different options in the passing attack, but you still don't get any more reliable than Greg Olsen. I think he's always going to be one of those tight ends that, in terms of consistent production, doesn't miss a lot of time to injury. He's a safe pick. And he's one of those guys, too, that sometimes slips in drafts. People, once they see Gronk off the board, like, all right, we can wait for a tight end. And if you're in one of those drafts where people aren't fully paying attention, you can see a guy like Greg Olsen slip to like the 6th round, 7th round. I remember my fantasy draft last year. He slipped in the 6th round and went the pick before me. I was so pissed off. I wanted him so bad. So Greg Olsen, consistent play, you'll be all right. You'll be absolutely all right. Go number 2, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to say it's 1A, 1B. Kind of a hot take. Not necessarily the hottest take. I'm actually going to say it's a 1A, 1B. Travis Kelce, why he's a 1A, or 1B actually, is because he's probably the number 1 receiving threat. As much as I have Tyreek Hill as one of my keepers. With no more Jerry Maclin, Travis Kelce probably still is the number 1 target there in that offense. I'm saying about 75 catches, 1,050 yards, and 7 touchdowns for Kelce. I mean, you can't be ballsy enough to say, you want to not put too much stock in injuries, even though I kind of said that with Jordan Reed. But if healthy, it is kind of Gronk and everybody else, so we can't disrespect Gronk. But I really do like Travis Kelce, and I would draft him pretty damn high. Like Travis Kelce, 4th round, probably. I would look at that because he's going to be the goddamn motherfucking guy there in Kansas City. PPR league, he's going to be extra added value. So I definitely want a little bit of Travis Kelce. And then the number 1 tight end is Rob Gronkowski of the New England Patriots. If healthy, it's not even close. So I'm saying it's about 65 catches, 1,050 yards, and 12 touchdowns for Gronk. I mean, even with the addition of Brandon Cooks on that offense and a bunch of running backs. Look at Brett Favre here. Old man Brett Favre. Gronk's Gronk. He's a guy, game changer. There's like a bunch of people wasted last year drafted him in the 1st round. I definitely would say, in the mold of a Jordan Reed, Jimmy Graham, you probably do want to get another tight end. Maybe with Gronk though, just get Dwayne Allen. Just get the backup there in New England. Don't worry about spending a pick on a guy that will cost you a lot. I think if you get Gronk, you could probably wait and get Dwayne Allen real late, maybe even in the last round. But you definitely want to handicap Rob Gronkowski. But if he is healthy, he is the number 1 tight end. He's the best tight end in football. But I just made it a 1A, 1B because Kelce is consistently healthy, whereas Gronk has struggled to stay on the field over the last couple of years. But like I said, you can't not get Gronk, especially, if he's slipping. I've heard some people say, one of my buddies actually was like, yeah, I just did a mock league. Gronk went in the 3rd round. Like, I would definitely take that gamble. It is a gamble. A lot of people are conscientious fantasy players. They look at injury history, and you may not want to touch Gronk. But, that is a gamble that I'm willing to take. Same kind of mold with like Keenan Allen on the Chargers, especially in PPR. Keenan Allen's a monster. Gronk is a gamble I would absolutely take. I just drafted Kelce in the 6th round. Holy fuck. You're money. You're money then, bro. You're dumb. All right, looking at the tight ends for sleepers, I'm saying Martellus Bennett just because you get, a decently talented tight end, probably the most talented tight end that Aaron Rodgers has had since he came in the league, and you have Aaron Rodgers throwing it to him, so I do like Martellus Bennett, and Jared Cook in Oakland. Again, debatably the best tight end that Derek Carr's had since he's been in the league. Obviously, Jared Cook really making great plays, sticking the dagger in the hearts of Cowboy fans during the playoffs, so respect to him. I like it. It's intriguing, especially because, he's going real late in fantasy drafts. For a bust, I have Charles Clay. I am really worried just with that Buffalo offense as a whole outside of LaShawn McCoy, to be honest with you. So I do see Charles Clay going higher than I like. And then I have Austin Hooper as kind of a tweener bust sleeper. The only one I'm talking about, a guy that could be a sleeper because he's going to be the starting tight end on a pass-happy offense. Where the other time he's unproven, and there's going to be plenty of people that put way too much stock that he is on the Atlanta Falcons offense and overdraft him. So if you do like Austin Hooper, you do want to get a bit of that Falcons offense, and you missed out on Matt Ryan, you missed out on Julio Jones, Freeman, Tevin Coleman. I'm not really big on Mohamed Sanu or Gabriel. Don't overdraft Austin Hooper. Look at that dynasty pick, going to Evan Ingram. I think Evan Ingram probably will have all right stats, lots of mouths to feed, but, decent probability Brandon Marshall's not only going to play this 1 year. So when Brandon Marshall goes, I think a guy like Evan Ingram can step right in, play that big outside threat, say inside. Evan Ingram is going to be a hybrid, I believe. I think they're going to use him as a tight end, wide receiver, all over the goddamn fucking place. So I think Evan Ingram looking towards dynasty might not give you the best value this year, but I think long term, Evan Ingram certainly is a guy. Dynasty leagues, you probably can get him in your last round. He's not getting drafted fairly high. So that's your tight ends, and I'm going to look through the questions here and answer some damn questions about some tight ends, and then we're going to finish this up with quickly going through defensive special teams as fat fuck Chris Baker, hope he gets diabetes and dies, gets a sack. Oh man, I'm getting a little sick here. You got Reed last year in round 4. What did I get? I think that's what I got him to. I kept him. He was my keeper last year. And I think I got him 6th round. He was a 6th round for me last year. Thoughts on Hunter Henry and Antonio Gates? Again, a little risky because you don't know who's going to get the most ball. You have to assume Antonio Gates, but if you're in a dynasty league, absolutely lock up Hunter Henry. They use the tight end a lot in the Chargers offense. I would say Antonio Gates is going to retire after this year. So then you're going to have a clear-cut tight end 1 and a pass-happy offense who can still definitely give you some decent production. Just don't overdraft him. Kind of in the mold of like an Austin Hooper. O.J. Howard or Cameron Brate. I would get O.J. Howard for the upside, but I would not want O.J. Howard to be my tight end 1. I would not want to gamble on that. Definitely if you draft one of those tight ends I was talking about and you're worried about injury. Like if you get Jordan Reed, absolutely have a guy like O.J. Howard. Be optimistic, though. Temper your expectations. Thoughts on Jack Doyle? Again, you got to make the decision. Do you trust that Colts offense? Do you trust that Andrew Luck's not going to miss that much time? I see Jack Doyle as a guy that benefits from Andrew Luck. I don't think he's that talented of a tight end. I think it's more so Andrew Luck makes Jack Doyle good. So be conscientious of what happens with Andrew Luck. David Njoku, like I said, outside of Crowell, I'm probably not touching anyone on the Browns in my fantasy league. Njoku Dynasty League, maybe. Thoughts on Jesse James? Well, obviously with Ladarius Green gone, he's going to be the clear number 1 tight end in Pittsburgh. Pass-happy offense, like to throw the ball, but I think with Martavis Bryant in, a lot of Jesse James production, kind of like the big go up and get it wide receiver. Now they have Martavis Bryant. So definitely I'd say tight end 2, mid to low tight end 2. What round for Martellus Bennett? 10th plus, I would say. 12th round off the top of my head. Like I said, don't really know. It's still kind of early to give out accurate average draft positions right now. But I'm just saying off the top of my head, based off of fantasy experience, I'd say maybe 12th round. 10th, 12th round. Evan Ingram, best rookie tight end. When all is said and done, probably O.J. Howard has Cameron Brate. When you got David Njoku has the Browns offense. So yeah, I would say Evan Ingram. I don't think there's going to be any rookie tight end that's worth a tight end 1 spot in fantasy, but there's definitely some upside. I would say yeah, Evan Ingram has the most likelihood of doing that. Thoughts on Benjamin Watson? Yeah, again, another guy depth. I would have him more as a backup. Max, he's gonna have to wait and see. Probably that's even a preseason battle. You get with Ben Watson, but he's getting up there in age. They have Max Williams, who they invested a high draft pick in like 2-3 years ago. They may want to try to give him some opportunities with obviously Dennis Pitta and Crockett Gilmore going down with injuries. Did you see Josh Gordon might be coming back? I did not see that. Very interesting though. Eric Ebron, I'd probably if I was going more than top 10, he'd probably be my top 12, fringe top 10 guy. Limited, obviously, yards dependent, kind of in the mold of Zach Ertz. Doesn't get a lot of touchdowns, but more receptions and yards. I would have him as a tight end 2, though. All right, that is all for tight ends. Let's finish this shit up with defense/special teams. It's going to be just kind of a rapid fire because it is kind of a shit show, but it's going to be more so defenses I like. So at number 10 for defense special teams, Baltimore Ravens at number 10. Tremendous run defense. Love what they did at safety. They've seemed to be, injury-free outside of the whole Zachary Orr retired, not retired, now he's coming back kind of thing. Ravens defense is going to be good. Obviously, you need to be conscientious of the offense. I think their offense is not going to be great. So that defense is going to be on the field a lot. But then on the inverse of that, with that defense being on the field a lot, with the playmakers they have, turnover opportunities are high. They have decent special team opportunity. Who did they lose? They lost Tavon Young. So they lost a decent corner. But I still like that Baltimore Ravens defense, especially, they're not going to give up a lot of points. Defensive scorings are all over the place, so that's why I'm not going to go too in-depth for defense. It's just going to be more as a whole, because I know particularly my big money league, we have a very, I don't want to say confusing, but in-depth scoring for defense. Because we do IDP, our defensive scoring is not as serious as other leagues that don't have individual defensive players. But I like the Ravens here at number 10. Looking at number 9, I'm going Minnesota Vikings. Again, kind of the mold of the Ravens, maybe not so much. I think that Vikings defense is going to be on the field. I'm not a huge fan of the Vikings offense, but playmakers on playmakers on playmakers on playmakers. If Anthony Barr can, not be terrible again this year, you have a real good playmaking linebacker. You have a really good secondary. You got a guy in Xavier Rhodes, gets plenty of interceptions. Kendricks is good. Lots of sacks from Everson Griffin and Danielle Hunter. Linval Jones pretty damn good at stopping the run. So Vikings do have a really consistent defense and some big opportunities, especially on special teams. They got I have no idea. Shearles? Is that who it was? Mark Shearles or something like that? They have a good returner as well. So I like the Vikings too. Again, don't be that guy that overdrafts defense. You usually wait to the last round or second last round when you fuck around with your kicker and defense. Vikings are good though. Go number 8. Kind of I think there's gonna be eyebrows raised. I have the Seattle Seahawks at number 8. Just because I do think that the Legion of Boom, they're still elite, but they're slowing down. That's where I'm at with them. You're not seeing as many pick sixes, as many turnovers. You do definitely have high potential for fumbles. Big hitters in Cam Chancellor, Bobby Wagner. Sack numbers are decent when Michael Bennett's not jumping offside. But I just see a lot less pick sixes. Before, they were a great scoring defense. I think now they're more of a shutdown defense, I guess, if that makes sense. So it's definitely top 10 defense in Seattle, but I think they're slowly, not being a top 10 defense in fantasy perspective. Going number 7, I'm going with the Chargers. Love the Chargers. Heavy turnovers. You got Casey Hayward gets a bunch of picks. I mean, that secondary is not spectacular, at least on name value, but they're not bad. But then you have the sack. I think Joey Bosa is going to get a bunch of sacks. Melvin Ingram's going to get a bunch of sacks. Their linebacking core is really good against the run. So I think they're definitely like a considered sleeper defense because not a lot of people are drafting them very high. So they could be a team where, you start seeing defenses come up the board. You can still draft your late round sleeper and then maybe wait around to get the Chargers because not a lot of people really talk about the Chargers. Down the stretch, the back end of the year, the Chargers defense was really, really good. I know me personally in my playoff push, I grabbed the Chargers and they're getting me 10, 15 points in my league scoring. So Chargers are a low-key sleeper. Someone asked, how many keepers are you allowed? It's different rules. If you want to keep a player in the 3rd round, you only get 1. If you want to keep a player between round 4 and 6, you can keep 2 players. And round 7, to the end, you can keep 3. No more than 3 keepers, though. All right, move back to the defense. So, the Chargers were number 7. At number 6, we're going with the Arizona. Oh, come on, AP. We're going with the Arizona Cardinals. Always a high-scoring defense, kind of trending downward like Seattle because they did lose Calais Campbell. They lost like a lot of their sack production, but it's the return ability. Great special teams unit, high pick six probability with the Cardinals, which is where really they come with. I think their sack number is going to be down. Run defense may struggle a little bit, but you always get the pick six and special team ability. A lot of people forget that when they talk about DST. They always just want to get the top defense. They don't think about special team unit. And the Cardinals have one of the best in football, so that's why they're number 6. Number 5, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles again. I mean, in terms of front set, I mean, everything outside of the cornerbacks for the Eagles is really, really good. I'm not even trying to just say that as a biased guy. Philly's going to be really good against the run. Decent interception chances because Malcolm Jenkins is a beast. He's usually good for like 3 to 4 picks. Biggest thing with the Eagles, special teams. In my biased opinion, Eagles have the best special teams in the NFL. And with Darren Sproles, we usually get, I don't even know, I think pretty much for the last couple of years, we've been top 3 for special teams touchdowns. So I usually like to get the Eagles as my homer pick. Going to number 4 is going to be the Giants. Real good defensive playmakers all over the goddamn field. Really good front, well, maybe not real good front 7, real good defensive line. Linebacking core is meh. But one of the best secondaries in football. Landon Collins, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, Janoris Jenkins. Interception probability is high. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie kind of boomer bust, but it seems like when he does get a pick, he takes it all the way back for a pick 6. So pick 6 probability is really, really high there with the Giants. I kind of paid to put the Giants ahead of the Eagles, but the defense overall is a little bit more consistent than I would say to Philly. Like, I mean, look at the weakness of the Giants. It's their linebackers, but the Giants linebackers are better than the Eagles secondary. So I mean, it's kind of like a 1A, or I guess we'd say 4A, 4B between the Eagles and Giants. If you want to go more so with the special teams unit, you want to draft the Eagles. If you want more so the base defense, then you're looking at the Giants. Go number 3. It's gonna be the New England Patriots. Again, usually a pretty good special teams unit. They get lots of fumbles, lots of sacks. It's the Bill Belichick defense, but I like that secondary. I like Stephon Gilmore, Malcolm Butler. Interception numbers are going to be high. Usually have a pretty good special teams unit. But the best thing with the Patriots is they have improved on defense, and they have, any divisional matchup, you're going to want to play their defense. They have a really good schedule. Matchups are good for the Patriots. And with the improved secondary, they're definitely a DST worth drafting this season. Going number 2, it's going to be the Denver Broncos. Debatably the best defense in football. Real comparable to the Giants in terms of secondary play, high interception numbers. You got sack numbers are crazy with Shane Ray. I don't know when he comes. I think he's hurt, but he'll be back eventually. Obviously, you got Von Miller, Derek Wolfe, good against the run. Everything runs through that defense. So, I mean, special teams, I like they got hopefully Isaiah McKenzie, the rookie from Georgia, is probably going to be the return man, electrifying type player. But again, more so you're going with the defense than the special teams unit with the Denver Broncos. But you can't go wrong with the Broncos. They're pretty damn good. And lastly, the number 1 defensive special team is the best combination of defense and special teams unit, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. I would draft the Kansas City Chiefs pretty damn high. I'm going to be looking at it. I remember last year, there's multiple weeks in my league where we have pretty low defensive special teams scoring because we have IDP. We don't want to double up too much with a defense like... let's just say lower scoring. Like, you don't want to have the Broncos defense and Von Miller and get double points, so you get less points for sacks and interceptions in my DST scoring. But looking at the Chiefs, man, there's multiple weeks they got 30-plus points. You have Tyreek Hill. You have the best punt returner in football. You have a defense that's good against the run, gets plenty of sacks, plenty of turnovers, and in the secondary, you get Marcus Peters, pick 6. Eric Berry, pick 6s. Chiefs are the number 1 defense for me. And I know, like, let's just say you're doing 15 rounds. I guess that's 13 to 15 rounds for your draft. You usually say round 14 is where you start looking at defense, and round 15 is when you look at kickers and stuff. If 14 is when you start going for defense, I think the Chiefs 12th round. I would be, to get the Chiefs. They're actually a big time priority for me this year in fantasy. They should be for you. Someone asked about Houston. Houston's 11. They're the honorable mention in the Texans just because they lost a lot in the secondary. They lost their starting safety. They lost their top corner. Their cornerbacks are old, and Jonathan Joseph's looking pretty old. Obviously, their front 7 is tremendous. But the special teams unit and their secondary just made them come in at number 11. But there you go. Chiefs number 1. That's a little tidbit, is overdraft the Chiefs defense. But that will do it here, fellas. Thank you for tuning in for the C4 Podcast number 3, Fantasy Football 2017. Everything you need to know to win your league from a motherfucker that's won my fair share of leagues. My voice is killing me. I'm gonna hope to God we can stream Pink Slips tomorrow if I have some free time. It's a holiday here in Canada. Fucking awesome. But, yeah, thank you guys for watching. This is your first time stopping by. Don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. As well, throughout the year, I don't know if I'm going to be doing fantasy videos. I may do a fantasy video every month, kind of a recap. But on any of my videos, don't ever be hesitant to ask a fantasy-type question. Follow me on Twitter at beastmode_TV. It's like the links on the fucking main channel page. That's probably the easiest way to get at me, to ask me some fantasy questions. But, yeah, that's going to be it for today. Thank you very much. And until next time, C4 saying peace